This is not a tracking shot. We are near a moving pavement, in fact, two moving pavements in the Universal Exhibition of 1900, two different speeds. Another film which is totally different from the previous film, which deal with the depth of focus and again the sense of perspective. We are in Lyon now. It's called in French Water Toboggan. And look at the guy who is smoking, first because he's smoking, which is now will be becoming an oddity. And he is coming back once in the frame, then the film is a little bit too short, so he is asked to come back in the frame and to invent a little action in order to get the film interesting until the end. Now, this is a wonderful film. It's a training of the French army with the nicest horse of the history of the cinema. And by just seeing that film, you can understand why we lost so many wars. Look, I mean, this is a scene which was not directed by Jackie McKennett. The same group of soldiers, little later, I mean, practicing their special kind of humor. But the most important thing is the character on the right. Louis Lumière was afraid that the film was not going to be very funny, so he added that character who is commenting the situation and, I would say, slightly overacting. Even at the end of the film, he doesn't know what to do and he practically falls on the ground. And he becomes the subject of the film. This is another ball game, 50 seconds, so there is absolutely no rules. I mean, everybody is throwing the ball at which that makes the film very funny, but too it's a very good document about the Lumière family and one of their many houses which they were owning at the time. Look at there is a guy who is trying to throw a ball from the beginning and he's always prevented. They are pretending to measure. Everything is acted in that film, and he's cheating. The first film about soccer, and which is mostly interesting because after a brief moment, the football will never be in the frame. So the film will become a kind of very bizarre choreography, and again, a film about the meaning of what it is, what we call in French the hors champ, the out of frame. La course en sac, the bags race, the people are the workers of Lumière's factory. It was a very popular game and sport. I don't know you can call that, I mean, in those days. The character we are very fond of is the one who is just coming. Because he's the real loser, and we like him very much. And you will notice, attention, the end of the director coming in the frame. Another striking composition. I mean, it could be out of a Russian film of the 20s or out of a John Ford film. It's called The Boat Going Out of the Port. In fact, it could be subtitled Trying to Go Out, but you will see what happened. As in many Lumiere films, there is a little accident which changes the screenplay or the storyline or the idea of the film. The wave and the boat is thrown back in the port. The French army strikes back in maybe one of their best shows. And look at the guy in the middle. He will look at the camera, and he's very, very much like Charles Boyer. Here are two films about a group of acrobats, the Cremos. They are very, very good, but the two films are very funny. Look, the kid is getting crazy there, and it's not finished. Not bad, and suddenly the best part of the film, there. Tremendous action in a few minutes. Another film, more spectacular and more patriotic, as you will see at the end. The quality of the photography is a little less good because it's not, the negative was lost on that film. With a French flag. Everything is done with a French flag. A lot of the films were devoted to the working class, to people working, like we are in La Ciotat in the south of France. It's a factory where they are making boat. It's a shipyard. And in fact, they started the film a little too early because people are waiting for something to happen. And here comes the subject of the film arriving a little late. One of the strangest and one of the most bizarre machines of the of the history of the cinema, which is supposed in order to work on the road, but it's rather incomprehensible. But again, the film is, apart from that, enigmatic meaning. The film again is shot with a sense of perspective again, with a diagonal. I mean, Lumiere and his operator were never filming in a lateral or frontal way. After the factories, the fields, the peasants, look at the first guy who is always looking at the operator to know where he must go. I mean, and he's totally paralyzed. Indication must have been given during the shot, because you will see the woman, she's going more on our right. The only people who are not following is the kids who do not give a damn about that. The French Navy we are in Toulon. Another unusual camera setup. The camera is very high and over the characters. And higher than most of the characters, with an incredible depth of focus. I mean, this is a film which, when it was shown in Lyon on the 19th of March, which impressed a lot of directors like Carol Rice or Stephen Frears. This is another factory. They are working on the coke. And what you have to notice in that film are the two levels in the image. It's like if there was two cinemascope films put one above the other. And it's, again, a striking composition. Very, very interesting, very unusual. And it's not only a great document about the working class, it's a very beautiful film. And an even more beautiful film. I mean, it's about France at work, so it means that the women are working, the men are not doing anything. It was a great time. and this time we have three levels, three cinemascope films. And the idea of putting the camera across the river and filming from far away is very, very beautiful, and it proves again the sense of composition of Lumière. This is a film which is by accident in that section in France at work, because nobody is really working. It's shot in Chambéry, not far from Le Mont Blanc in the Alps, but it's a very, very beautifully photographed film. I mean, you have the impression of being in Spain or in Morocco. Look at the use of the white and the black. I mean, you just have to realize that those films were made 100 years ago. Another composition, very modern. Raoul Walsh was always talking about how to use the diagonal and the perspective so an action could be more interesting. This is a very good example. It's called the Stone Carver Horses, and he had 50 seconds to get the whole subject, and now we are 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. It will be over. So, the journey throughout the world, starting from Lyon, first stop, Paris. We are not far from the Champs-Élysées. We are in the Champs-Élysées. A lot of traffic, and some people try to go through in the street, to cross the street, and it's impossible. One on the right, one on the left. They quit. They quit trying after a while. And look at the bicycle going. I'm sure that Lumière was paying some people to send them in the opposite direction to increase the movement. This is the first tracking shot in Venice, a photograph in Venice by an operator called Alexandre Promio. And he was so afraid that Lumière was going to yell at him that he apologized in his letter. On the opposite, Lumière was so impressed by the film that he asked all the operators, which he sent throughout the world, to do that kind of shot, which he was calling not a tracking shot, not a traveling, but a panorama. He asked the camera always to be on a moving either carriage or train or boat in order to get a view from a city. We are in London the Empire Theatre, the Lumiere, who were always interested by doing their own publicity, are filming the theatre which is showing their film. I mean, their film were introduced by Félicien Tréwell, which we have seen drinking beer with Antoine and Mr. Vinclair and playing cards. We are in Dublin. This is the Dublin fireman. And the operator sent there fell in love with the fireman because he shot 15 films in Dublin and 11 were devoted to the fireman. But the film again is very, very, very well photographed and well shot. And I like the people coming back in the frame very close to the camera, which gives again a sense of movement and perspective. This is again Ireland, but Belfast, and it's called The Big Ladder. And it's not only big, it's a rather bizarre ladder, and it takes a lot of time before being all worked up. I mean, I'm sure the house would have time to burn before. Because look what is going to happen. Up, little door, the ladder, and Berlin, Friedrichstrasse, the Panopticon, another cinema which was showing the Lumiere films. It's a film which we gave to Wim Wenders when he came to Lyon. And it's maybe the first film shot in Berlin streets.